Hi everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 1, Episode 7, Dax. So, I think this is an interesting episode, and I think it serves a good purpose, but I don't really like this episode. The reason being is that, so at this point, we basically rediscovered the Trill, okay? So they're not the same Trill we saw in the Next Generation. They're totally different. And we're still kind of learning about them as far as Deep Space Nine is concerned. And this whole episode is basically to kind of tell us more about them. Now, during the first 6 episodes, we've learned about the Trill, and we've kind of gotten little tidbits here and there about Dax and such. But this one, so this episode poses the question, is a Trill responsible for what it does in its past lives? So we realize that Curzon Dax is being accused of murder. And the son of the general that was murdered, is trying to get Dax under the death penalty because of that. Of course, Cisco comes in to save the day, and it says, no, this is Jadzia Dax. This is not Curzon Dax, and it's two completely different people, and you can't charge one for what you did, for what the other one did. And so during the course of the episode, it's just kind of usual courtroom drama. People are giving their different sides, like they get the medical standpoint from Dr. Bajir, they get personality, character witnesses, like Cisco talks about how he was friends with Curzon for 20 years, and so on and so forth. To get to the end of the episode, Odo realizes that Curzon was actually having an affair with the general's wife. And so when the general was murdered, Curzon was nowhere near that, because that was one of the big points, is Curzon didn't have an alibi. Well, he did have an alibi, he just couldn't admit to it. And so the courtroom basically is just dismissed because the wife comes forward and says, yes, Curzon was with me. Which pisses me off because they never come to a conclusion. They never say, yes, Jadzia will be responsible for what Curzon did, which just kind of furthers my point that they had this great idea of storytelling to give us different perspectives about the Trill, but they don't actually give us the conclusion as far as this episode. It's like an Unsolved Mysteries for those old enough to remember that show. And so it just kind of bothered me. Like, I think the acting in this episode is great. There's some amazing Star Trek actors making their debut and or returning, like Anne Henney, who's a great actress. She's in stuff like Mrs. Doubtfire. She was in the season 2 episode of Next Generation, Survivors, and then I always butcher her name, Miss Flanagan. I'll just say Miss Flanagan, who is like in the movie The Others or Four Brothers, stuff like that. She played Data's mom, and I think she will, because I think that episode came out after this one. So some great acting in this whole episode, some great storytelling, but I think they had the idea of, hey, let's make an episode all about Dax, hence the title, and kind of show the people more about the Trill so they understand it. But then it's difficult to write an episode about that without a conclusion. It's also noteworthy that this is the first episode that mentions Raktajino. It's the Klingon coffee. One of these days I'll actually Google it, because I'm sure somebody in the internet web has made a recipe for Klingon coffee, and just see what it's kind of like Harry Potter, like there's recipes for like butterbeer and all that. So I'm kind of curious for Raktajino, if anybody's had a variation of it or what they thought about it. As for this episode, go ahead, let me know what you guys think about the Trill. What do you guys think about the Trill differences from the Next Generation to Deep Space Nine, which is stuff we've talked about, but I'd love to talk about it again. And then what do you guys think just about this overall story? And finally, what do you guys think the verdict should have been? Do you think Jadzia, like if the mom had never come forward and the judge had basically had to make a decision, should Jadzia be responsible for Curzon's mistakes? So go ahead, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching these videos with me. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys next time for The Passenger.